Hello and welcome back to the Tin Barn. I'm Pragmatic Lee, and in this week's video we're going to do a follow-up on the aerosol paint can shaker that I did in my last video. Of course, in that last video I did a reverse build of it, and for my channel, there was an extremely high amount of interest in that project. That video is probably my highest ranking video over the last year. I really appreciate the comments, the reactions to it, and the views, of course. And if it hadn't been such a popular video, I probably wouldn't even done this follow-up. But there's a few mistakes I made in that build that I've had to correct, and I want to share those with you this morning. And in addition to that, I'm going to show the installation of it. About 2 years ago, I did a RapidAir installation, RapidAir system here in the Tin Barn, where installed my compressor is outside under the shelter, and I plumbed with the like I say, the RapidAir system. I plumbed into the Tin Barn and through the middle and got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, at least 8 drops off of that system. We're going to add a 9th one today. But for right now, let me zoom in on the shaker and show you what updates I had to do to it. Okay, I've got the regulator and the oiler. I've taken it off just so you can see a little better of what's going on here. First thing I had to modify was the motor mount itself. That was 2 videos ago where I made the motor mount and stated in that video that no matter what I use this air motor for, I would need a mount. And if you recall, on the boss on the end of the motor out here had 2 little dimples in it for set screws. I put one in on this side, a 1024 in on this side. The motor did not stay in place. Let me prefix all this by saying this whole setup is a lot more violent than I ever anticipated it to be. But when you've got a pound-and-a-half can of paint sitting over here, and this action is going back and forth, it gets pretty, like I say, it can get pretty violent. And that 1024 set screw here was simply not enough to hold it. So I come on the back side over here, opposite on that other dimple, and drilled and tapped for another set screw. But I changed them from 1024 to 1/4-20. I also did another mount back here at the back, so that it wasn't just hanging off this front boss. It was actually held in place back here as well. There's no set screws in this. This is a snug, tight fit over this boss on the back of the motor. So that is holding the motor in place fine now. But I also had another issue with the drive wheel, the driven wheel, and the shaker wheel. Remember, they were all made out of aluminum and had 1024 set screws in them as well. Well, first off, that 1024 set screw was just not enough to hold. And the axle, what I was using for the axle, is a piece of 1/2-inch drill rod, very hard material. So those set screws would not bite into them. I went back, took these off, took the axle out, ground a flat on them, and tried to make that work. It still, with the set screws kept backing out and literally were wallering out the tapped hole. So I tried another step. This was installed like this. I drilled this side and put a spring pin in it, so it was held rigid. I had to have this side portable that I could install this, put it on, and so forth. So I drilled it and put a long screw through it. But the next problem that started happening, there was just a little bit of slack in this screw, And hopefully you can see that. I'm holding this back rigid. Just a short period of time, this wallowed out and was just too much slap in there. Over here on the driven wheel, I'm sorry, on the shaker wheel, it was holding in place pretty good with the spring pin. So what I decided to do, oh, and another thing that happened with this too, you remember those nice pretty brass shoulder bolts I made? 1024 just simply was not stout enough, and I don't know that you can see it. If I try to screw this in to a 1024 hole now, I don't think you can probably see that. But the thread part on this is literally bent. And of course that caused binding up here and down here. So I made a new drive wheel, a new driven wheel, and a new shaker wheel. Made them out of steel. And instead of 1024 grub screws, I'm using 1/4 and I ordered some shoulder bolts. Let me grab one of them right quick. I still needed the 5/16 shoulder, but I needed a larger thread here, something that wouldn't bend as easy. And so I actually ordered these. These are 5/16 shoulder, but a 1/4 thread, and have a hex, inverted hex head in them. I made these wheels just enough larger that I could do the same offset from the center, but drill and tap a 1/4 hole. And the pitman rod had also worn where there was slack in it, so I made a new one out of steel. And this is working so much better now. We'll see it in operation when I get it installed. But I've got all this in now. Like I say, doubled up the motor mount, doubled up the pins, rebuilt the 3 wheels, and also instead of just simply grub screws in this, hopefully you can see here, these are actually have a broach. I broached the wheels and I milled out a groove for a keyway, and installed these using a key. And the only thing the grub screw in these is for now is simply to hold the key in place. Working so much better. Alright, so I'm going to turn around now to where we're going to mount this. I've used it enough with it clamped to the bench to know that this is going to be a permanent addition to the tin barn. So I've made a bracket for it on the wall, and we're going to plumb it now to have a constant air supply. Alright, that blue line is the RapidAir supply coming into the tin barn. It actually going overhead right here. But this is the closest joint to where we're going to mount the paint can shaker. So I'm going to replace that elbow right there with a T, and we're going to feed off in this direction, and then put the elbow in that general area and come down to that mount. This black mount that I have on the wall is where we'll mount the shaker. This RapidAir system is so simple to work with. I will say that I do have some leaks in it, but as I said, I've got 8 drops in here and a lot of joints. So I turn off the air every night anyhow. So the leaks don't really bother me. Alright, so there's our T. When I bought the RapidAir system, the kits come with a certain amount of hose and then amount of hardware. And I saw right off the bat with as many drops as I had that the amount of hardware was not going to be enough. I saw that the amount of hardware that I was going to need for this project was not going to be near enough with a single kit. And I found that I could buy 2 kits cheaper than I could buy 1 kit and the extra hardware. And then there was only just a few pieces of the extra hardware that I needed. So that's what I did. So I've got probably a lifetime supply of extra hose. And I just use these EMT clamps to hold this in place. Alright, let me grab me another screw. The RapidAir system that I got, they call it 1/2 inch, but it's the pipe is 1/2 inch outside diameter, 3/8 internal. So in reality, it's a 3/8 system. And to terminate that elbow that I just put in just a second ago, I made this manifold. You've seen me make air manifolds on my channel before, but this was just a 1-inch block of aluminum that I had in my supply bin. This uses what's called a 3/8 NPT for this fitting, and a 3/8 NPT uses a 37/64 tap drill. So I drilled down, left about a 1/2 inch in the bottom of this with the 37/64, tapped it for this fitting that will take this pipe. Then over here on this side, I drilled for a 1/4 inch NPT, which uses a 7/16 drill, drilled into that cavity made by this drill, of course, tapped it, and installed this 1/8 inch slip fitting. So let's turn in and get this manifold installed now. Now, if you recall from before, The air line will come in from here, go through the regulator, through the oiler, from the oiler around to the motor. So all we need to do now is run a little line from this input here to the manifold we made and just installed. Alright, I cut a little small piece of the 1/8 inch pipe and run from the manifold that we just installed to the input to the regulator. Now let's see just how sturdy this is mounted to the wall. We'll stick a can of paint in. Okay, I think that's probably going to do it for this video. I think the paint can is shaking well enough now. As I said, if there hadn't been so much interest shown in this, I probably would not have shown what I was doing now, but it was a prime opportunity to show you how the RapidAir system, how easy it is to work with. And they are not a sponsor of this channel. I don't get any sponsorship from anyone, as a matter of fact. But I wanted to show you the additions that I made here, or the enhancements that I made to the motor mount and to the drive system. So take care, and I'll see you on the next video.